What's going on, growers? It's James Prigioni coming to you live from Jersey. Today, I want to share with you 5 ways to protect your plants, getting you a step closer to a better harvest. Let's go! When we're out here in our gardens or food forest, wherever you're growing, we're investing both our time and our money on things like perennials, fruit trees, annuals, all different things. So in my opinion, it makes sense to have insurance on these investments. So I've got some ideas, some things I'm going to share with you all that can hopefully get you closer to that harvest and lock in that harvest so we're not wasting this time or that money. So we're getting a return on our investments. Things are going to pay off because the goal is food freedom. The goal is to actually get a good harvest as naturally as we possibly can. So one thing you'll notice is these strawberries are starting to flower. So I've got a little trick, something that's kind of unique and a little fun I'm going to share with you all. That's going to be the first tip to actually locking in the strawberry harvest. Now that the flowers are out in the strawberries, that means the fruit's on its way. It's going to be coming soon. And one of the main pests that we find regarding the strawberries is the birds. They like to come over and peck at them, I think just to get a lot of water out of it. So what we're going to do is actually use some rocks to try to trick these birds. And I'm going to get these rocks in now because the idea is to put them in before the fruit starts showing so we can kind of trick the birds like I said, but let me show you how I'm doing it right now. So I've got some rocks here. I actually bought them a few years ago because I wanted really smooth rocks. These are pond pebbles. The idea is that we're going to use some red spray paint and spray these rocks, set them out now so the birds think that they're strawberries, go in, peck at it, then realize they're not. This way when the real strawberries come, they're kind of turned off by the fact of it, and maybe we'll kind of trick them and allow that harvest to stay just with us. I've got some other techniques that I'm going to be using too, showing you how to protect more than just strawberries, but let's get this started first.
Let me be now, let me be, 'cause I want to be free now, free to see, yeah. I want to walk away, let me feel my feet, let me be free.
That looks pretty good. One thing I didn't mention is if you're going to do this, you want to make sure that you spray the rocks down. I did that yesterday. I sprayed them down, make sure they were all cleaned off, and then let them dry all the way. This way they're not like covered in dust and the paint just rubs off. These ones are still wet here, but as I wait for those to dry, I'm going to set out some ones that I spray painted last year or maybe the year before that I used. So let's get these out while we're waiting for those to dry. Some of you might be thinking, why not just use a bird net? But then you may realize we have strawberries throughout the garden in all different places. So I would basically need to bird net most of the garden if I wanted to keep them away. I'm going to start in this section here next to the grapes where we have a few of the flowers opening. And again, the idea is to get this down before the other strawberries start showing so that they come through and they try to peck at these and then get turned off by the whole fact that these aren't actually strawberries. So when the real strawberries come, they're like, no, those must be rocks. So we're going to set these up in a little pattern, try to keep them next to the ones that are earliest to flowering. And I think timing is really important with this. Maybe I should just put that next to an actual plant. So I think timing is really important with this. So I'm going to get the rest of these out and then wait for the other ones to dry, and I'll set them up in different locations. Looking good. We've got the red rocks down in all the locations where the strawberries are. Hopefully this deceives them just a little bit. Let's move over to the second tip though. This one's the simplest and in my opinion also probably the most important, especially for new gardeners. That is adequate fencing. So when you get your first garden in or any garden in, you put all that time and work in, you want to make sure you're getting a good harvest, or it can be demoralizing when something comes and just eats everything up. As you can see here, even with the fencing I did put in, it just wasn't enough this time. And you can see the peas, they're getting eaten. This happened to me last year, where something's been coming up, nipping at my peas. As you can see the bite marks right here. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It may be ducks because they've been in the backyard a lot recently. But what I did is, and you can see I was starting doing it there as well, but I think these are big enough that they're not really going to be worried at this size. I think they're okay. I've been actually taking that 1/4-inch hardware cloth, bending it into like a quarter hoop on both sides to protect my peas. And then once they get big enough, I'll pull that hardware cloth away. So it's a little extra work, but it's the most effective because nothing can get through that. Nothing that's big enough to be eating these. I'm not sure if it's the birds or the ducks. The ducks have been in the backyard like crazy. I'll give you a little clip of them last night. And Tuck's just been hard at work trying to keep them out. So the ducks are good to eat the slugs. One of the great things that they go after, but we also want to make sure we're getting some good peas because they're one of my favorite spring snacks. The third way I'm ensuring myself a better harvest is through diversity. As most of you know, my favorite way of gardening is in a food forest because I can plant so many different things together. Nut trees, peach trees, apple trees, cherry trees, asparagus, strawberries, rhubarb, all different things. And when we have a different number of things, then that actually gives us more stability, because if, say, one pest comes and attacks my peaches, I still got my apples. Or if it's a bad year for strawberries, we got the asparagus. Or even a bad year for raspberries, maybe it'll be a good year for the gooseberries. So having a diverse number of things, like I said, breeds stability. And the more we can actually connect these different diverse things together, have beneficial connections, that's actually the main goal. That's where we get taken to another level. That's where the food forest gets, from actually just being a bunch of different plants together to being one whole unit. So let me flip the camera around, just walk through a couple of the things we have planted, like this Bing cherry here. Even when it comes to growing a lot of the fruits, not just one kind of cherry, all different kinds of cherries, in case maybe it's just a variety that doesn't do well. We've got lemon balm, we've got pear trees, Santa Rosa plum trees, we've got strawberries like I've shown many times, we've got grapes, we've got raspberries, we've got almond tree, rhubarb, comfrey, apricot trees, currants, gooseberries, goji berries. We love planting annuals, a lot of different peaches. So we want to make sure we're planting a diverse number of things. Like I said, that's going to really actually stabilize our harvest and stabilize our whole forest in general, bring a better balance. In my opinion, a good way to approach pests in the garden, whether those be animals or bugs, is to do it proactively, to try to be a step ahead of them. So it's good to try to find out what these pests like or what they don't like. For instance, I'm going to try to use those rocks to trick the birds. This way, we're not actually fighting against them once they come in and trying to scramble to get nets out. Another thing I did this year was, and I've done previous years, was getting the praying mantis nests to be a step ahead of those small little insects like aphids and things. Before they get out, let's be on top of those. And it's good, in my opinion, if you keep a journal. So write down every year what kind of bugs you have, what you try to do to stop them. This way, in the future, you'll be able to look back at that and use the past and invest that into the future. It'll guide you and save you a lot of time. The fourth way I'm ensuring myself a better harvest takes us into the greenhouse. As you can see behind me, we have a lot of stuff growing. So what I like to do is grow way more than I actually need, or I'll even think I'll need, because that's a good way to protect yourself. Something always happens, something always comes up, so it's good to have those extra plants as backup. And I'll grab the camera and show you guys some of the stuff up close, how well it's doing. But recently I planted out some of the brassicas and stuff I showed you, and we had a terrible rainstorm and a lot of wind, which was good for some things, but it actually killed, I think, about 2 of my brassicas. So now, since I have all this stuff growing, I'll have the opportunity to replace those. So I'm gonna bring you along as I grab a couple of brassicas and replace the ones that were actually out there that were affected negatively. And I don't wanna just have to wait for them. I'd rather get new, good ones in. As you can see, we have a lot of plants in here. Most of it are tomatoes and peppers and eggplants. Some of the tomatoes are getting big, the ones I planted early. May have to transplant those. But you also notice a lot of peppers, a lot of eggplants, and some more brassicas like the mizuna and stuff. I'm going to put one of the mizunas in to replace the ones that didn't do so hot or got negatively affected by the wind and the rain. And we've got basils and stuff, all different things. So we're really ready. And this is way more than I need or that I can even plant. But not only do we have the protection if something dies or something doesn't perform well, but also we can actually choose the best ones. So for instance, if we only grew 5 tomato plants, and then that's all the 5 that we could choose from. But if we grow 20 tomato plants, we can choose the 5 healthiest ones. And then anything else we can just give away to a friend or anyone who actually wants to grow it. So we've got a number of brassicas still to choose from, but I'm going to go with these 2 right here. We've got a purple streaked mizuna, I believe it is, and we've also got a dino kale. So let's get those in and replace the ones that got affected by the wind and the rain. I'm in the new food forest now. You can see the 7-year-old one in the back there. But after walking through the number of locations, it looks like only one of the brassicas needs to be replaced. The majority of them are doing well. Some cabbages and stuff are performing nicely, as you can see. So everything seems to be performing nicely. It seems like the purple cabbages typically do better in my location. Same thing with the purple cauliflower. But as you can see right here, this one just isn't performing like the others. The wind and the rain or something knocked it over. Maybe something stepped on it, but again, I don't want to just baby that one. I'd like to replace it. That's why I grow the replacements. So something like this cauliflower, which I believe it is doing a lot better. Let me see actually what it is. I'm keeping the cups next to them for now just to help me identify exactly what I'm growing. Yeah, it looks like a purple Sicily cauliflower. So that looks like it's going to perform well. I'm hoping to get some nice, beautiful purple heads of that. So we're going to replace this one with the purple Mizuna. I'll get that in now. For those of you growing in wood chips, I think it's important to note that I'm not growing in the wood chips. I'm growing in the dirt, in the soil. The wood chips are just used as a mulch. So you don't want to be planting into wood chips or you're going to have issues. I can promise you that. And I don't think you could try it. I mean, you can try it if you want, but I've tried it many times. It just doesn't work as well as planting in the actual ground. So we didn't even see that much growth coming out the sides. It's still relatively young, so we got it out at a pretty good time, I think. As you can see, my soil here is nice from working it through the years. And I shared with you in a video, I showed you how, I think it was like 7 years ago, I started to mulch this section. So this is just built up from the accumulation of the years. We're gonna get this Mizuna in. Looks like it's performing okay. Could be a little straighter, but I haven't planted any Mizuna yet, so I really want to get this one any decent roots. And we're gonna make sure it's the right height.
On and on and on we go. Well, some will you see and some won't be true for you, and truth will lead you to a sense of
Perfect. Now all I'll have to do is just come back and water it. But again, always nice to have new plants and new crops ready to grow and replace ones that don't perform well or just need a little more help. The fifth way, and as you can see, I got my hands nice and dirty now, then I'm going to be ensuring myself a better harvest this year. It kind of ties back to the first one, having to do with the birds. So I noticed that a lot of the birds, most of the time they come and eat my strawberries and things, is because they need a drink of water. So I'm going to make sure I do an extra good job of keeping my bird bath full and also adding more bird baths. As you can see right now, this bird bath is relatively low, and it was just filled the other day. That's how much the birds are coming through. They're drinking the water. I'm sure there's some other rodents as well. So I want to make sure I'm going to fill that up, which I'll do right now. And I'm also going to add some more bird baths. I saw a few pretty cool ideas online. One of them was using terracotta pots, the bases of them. So I had a few extra terracotta pots. I'm going to show you how I'm just going to throw one together real quick. And then also I had an idea, which I'm not going to share in this video, but maybe I'll bring you all along if you want to see it, where I can actually take the base of one of my trees, one of the Bradford pears I cut down, and I'm going to basically cut a hole into the center with a chainsaw and then chip as much of it out, then pour some concrete into that, then put a bowl into it and kind of keep that shape, and then pull that bowl out almost as just like a mold. Then I can fill that up with water and add another little bird bath. So if that's something you want to see, something you think I should try, let me know and maybe I'll bring you along for it.
let me be now, let me be, 'cause I want to be free now, free to see, yeah.
So there's nothing particularly special about this. I just thought it was clever when I saw it online. And one of the cool things with this is people painted the pots all different colors, so you could add your own kind of flair, your own style to it. And it can be a fun thing to do if you have kids or anything in the garden. So I saw a number of people just taking it, flipping one like this, and then I was gonna do that, and then take the basin, just throw it on top, and you got yourself a little bird bath. So again, you can use a different style or anything you want, but I think it's unique, and I think it's going to be a great money saver if someone doesn't want to put out all the money, because the bird bath can be expensive. And if you don't want a plastic one in the garden, you could add your own little touch, your own little flair to it.
Let me be.
Before I let you go, I wanted to talk about some bonus ones. Some bonus ways to protect your garden. Here's my number one bonus tip. Little Tuck. Sit, boy. Sit. Good boy. So he's always working, chasing all the birds out, chasing the ducks and everything, chasing out the chipmunks. He's always hard at work. He's head of garden security, and he's my number one bonus or secret tip to protect your plants. Also, to make yourself have a lot more fun, a good garden companion. Always listens well in the garden. Sometimes he tramples stuff, sometimes he eats a little more than he should, but regardless, we always have a blast. And a second bonus tip would be Diatomaceous Earth. So I'm not going to spread any out today, but Diatomaceous Earth is a great way to protect from a lot of your insects and stuff without having to use any harmful chemicals. The way to do that is to just circle some of your plants or border them. This way, if any kind of insects or anything go over it, it'll actually pierce their exoskeleton and give them a hard time. So Tuck just did his little run around, make sure everything's good in the garden. I think he said it gave me the okay that the video is all done. Time to head inside. It's getting a little chilly now that the sun has set, but regardless, we had a lot of fun. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. I hope me and Tuck give you some unique ideas, or even like a different perspective on how to ensure yourself a better harvest, how to protect your plants, and make sure you reap in that harvest. And again, being proactive, trying to be ahead of the insects, ahead of the pests. In my opinion, that's the best way to do it. We don't want to be out here when they've come, scrambling, try to spray after there's an infestation or something. Again, if we can be ahead of it, that's the way to go. Me and Tuck are out. We're back at you real soon with another one. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share with your friends. We